Episode 12, here we are. And this is a different one. I say that a lot, but this one, I am not actually talking about a reel. I'm not talking about a specific reel that I covered on my Instagram, nothing like that. I'm more talking about how you can start pumping out these reels and how you can really have them perform better. While I haven't gotten these massive numbers or anything through the time that I've been putting out these reels, I have learned a lot and I've done some research as well that has helped me a lot. And through that, I have just figured out what works for me, and I figured out different ideas that work, different concepts that work, different styles of how you can post that jump out to the viewer more. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about it, but the overarching themes of it, there's things you can do to have your numbers be higher on these reels. So starting off was one that I had some trouble with at first, and I've seen it firsthand. I experienced this whenever I ran out of the reels that I recorded and I still wanted to post consistently, so I would record them on my phone. So I usually batch film these reels, so I film about 7 at a time and then I post them daily. But sometimes on the 8th day, I don't have a reel to post, so I need to come up with something. If I don't have time to film these new ones with my camera and the nice audio, then obviously my next option, which is the same as your next option, is my phone. And unfortunately for me, I have figured out that when I film one on my phone, it actually performs better. This was a tough pill to swallow because I'm a photographer, I'm a videographer, so I really care about the quality of the videos. That's something that I really put a lot of time and effort into. I want to use the best gear I have. I want them to be as visually appealing as they can be. I also want them to just sound appealing, because when it comes to video content, especially on YouTube, but Instagram too, you're going to drive the viewer away if something's off. If your audio's bad, they're going to stop watching. If the lighting in the video is bad, they're not going to want to watch. So you have to have these key components that will make people come back and that will make it easier on people to watch, because at the end of the day, whenever people aren't necessarily watching and they're seeing you for the first time, this is their first impression. They don't know anything about you personally. They don't know really anything about your content if this is the first video that they're watching. So you need to do everything you can do to make it look good, to make it sound good, to make it just pleasing, so that all that they have to worry about is the content that they're consuming. So if you're trying to provide some value, all that they are really focusing on is what you're saying to them. They're not thinking like, oh man, like this audio is terrible, or like I can't even watch this because like it's so hard to look at. So if you really dial in your settings and if you dial in what you're using, it will help, and it will help you gain that following. It'll help you consistently get people coming back. But going back to what I was saying is, this isn't the case on all social media platforms. I think YouTube it is, but when it comes to these short form videos, which has really been the wave recently, obviously TikTok and then Instagram Reels and just everything in general, even YouTube Shorts, the content that really gets pushed and the content that people consume and can really relate to is actually filmed on your phone, this right here. And that's a weird thing. You're so used to the content having to be good. You're used to the content that these people that know how to use the cameras and all that, you're used to that being the content that gets pushed and that really performs well. But it's just not the case. And I found this whenever I was saying I ran out of my reels and I needed to film one so that I could consistently keep posting every day. I just would grab my phone and I would talk to it. And at the beginning of posting all of my reels, they weren't really performing all that well. I found like every fourth or fifth one would get like 2,000 views or something. All the other ones would get around 500 views. And then one day I was going for a walk and I was like, oh, I don't have a reel today, so I'm going to just, whatever was on my mind, I'm just going to film it. And I think the one that I filmed was about me talking about how I like taking time to myself at the beginning of the day. You guys have heard me talk about it a million times. That's something that I really value. I don't like waking up and getting right at it. I like having time, but it wasn't me sitting at my desk like I am now talking about it. It was me walking on the sidewalk with a coffee in my hand talking about it. So even that right there connects you to it more. You see that I'm out in the field doing what I'm talking about. I'm not sitting here and just preaching and you guys don't know if I actually do it. I genuinely recorded that at like 7:30 in the morning whenever I was going for a walk, and I was talking about how I like having that time to myself. So that just makes it connect to the viewer even more. So it makes sense. While I would love for it to be the quality is everything, I would love for it to be that like the better I make my videos look and sound and the better they'll perform, but it's not the case. On Instagram, on TikTok, you really need to relate to the viewer. Think about the viral videos that you see, the ones that pop up on like everyone's feed, or even just think about your TikTok For You page itself. So I know mine, and that's really what I can relate to. My TikTok For You page consists of a lot of comedy videos. And whenever it comes to those comedy videos, none of them are really filmed well. And even if they are, they're not like super, super dialed, because if you make it too good, it's honestly going to look like an ad. And you're like, I don't want to see this, keep scrolling. But a lot of the comedy videos are purely based on the content of it. They're purely based on what the creator is saying and whatever the joke is. And that's relatable, because at the end of the day, you have a phone. You're watching this on a phone, and that's what everyone can do. Not everyone can go and spend thousands of dollars on this camera gear and make it look like super, super good. But you do have your phone in your pocket. You have your phone in your hand. So if you see this comedy video and you're like, oh, I want to do that, you know that you're purely capable of doing that because you have the gear. The gear isn't the thing that's going to be setting you back. You know that you could film it right there if you have the idea. So TikTok and Instagram Reels have really separated this in a way that anyone can do it. Anyone can really start because the phone camera is really good. And whenever you see a well done video now on those platforms, you think it's an ad. So honestly, if you are creating an ad for a company, if this is your job, you should consider whether it's using a really wide lens or using your phone, because a really wide lens on a nice camera, it will look crisp, but to an untrained eye, you could make them think that it was just on an iPhone with the wide angle feature. Since there's not the depth, that's why you can't tell. A lot of the times, whenever people argue that the phone camera is getting really close to like a DSLR or something of that nature, the argument's always the depth. And that's my argument against it, is you can't like get that cinematography look. You can't get that nice depth of field, the separation from the background that you might be able to get on a mirrorless camera or a DSLR, any interchangeable lens. You can't get that on a phone. But that works to your advantage when it comes to these platforms. It works to your advantage to be more intimate. Whenever I film these reels, so I think they'll be out by the time this podcast comes out, but I tried something new. And instead of using my 24-70, which is what I'm using right now, on like a 35 millimeter, I instead used my 16-35 all the way at 16. So like I was saying, to an untrained eye, you could think it's an iPhone, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing when it comes to these platforms, because they don't think they're getting this curated content. They don't think they're getting this paid ad that somebody is paying to be on your For You page, to be on your algorithm or something of that nature. I did this so I could try this theory out. I've seen it work with my phone. I've recorded things on my phone, and they've performed really well. While I might be in a little bit of denial, which is why I don't necessarily film them all on my phone, I do accept that that's a thing. And if you stand out on somebody's page, it can be a good thing. You know, that might catch their eye. It might make them stop. But if you stand out too much and it's like super well done, they're like, oh, like this dude's just trying it too hard. I don't really care. I just want to know what he has to say. I don't care about what it looks like. And sometimes whenever you use the gear like this, it will hold you back, because You have to film it, right? I have this camera set up with a nice lens on a tripod. I have my microphone right here, which is a lot of gear, and it's a lot of setting up. It's a lot of really getting ready to go whenever I could just be creating. And that's what TikTok pushes. TikTok pushes you creating as much as you possibly can, and there's value in that. Another thing that I've learned throughout posting these reels that's worked for me is just being consistent. I'm sorry if the audio is getting a little bit messed up. My fan's starting to go on my AC, but it's really hot in here, so I have to let it go. But anyways, posting consistently is actually everything that people talk about is essential. Anyone can get out there and post once a week, but the way you can differentiate yourself is becoming a part of somebody's daily habits. Whenever Casey Neistat started posting daily, this was a big thing that he talked about. He, at 9 a.m. would post, it was either 8 or 9 a.m., he would post every single day. So whenever people sat down for their morning cup of coffee or they got to work, they knew that Casey had a video ready to go. So I don't necessarily post at the same time every day, but I can guarantee that every day you will see my face with a new video on your feed. And that is essential. You become part of somebody's life. You become a bigger part of their daily habits, and you can almost be an escape for them. If you post every Wednesday on YouTube or something like that, that works because they know what they're going to be getting from you, when they're going to be getting that from you. But if you post once a week on Instagram, there's so much content being pushed there. There's so much content people are just endlessly scrolling through, and they're not really giving you the time of day. If you post once a week, they're like, he's doing his thing, but I guess I gotta wait a whole nother week for this 1 minute video. It's not that hard to push out these videos. You can do it, and you can do it consistently, and I would recommend batch creating your content. Whenever you batch create, it takes a lot of the weight off of you. It takes a lot of the pressure off of you thinking that you have to film every single day. That's not the case. Let's say every Sunday you say, I'm going to film 7 videos. Then you have a week's worth, and you can make that your routine. So instead of having to film every single day with your nice setup or anything like that, you know what day you have to do it, and you know that you have a whole week's of content that you can be pushing out. So people might be thinking that you're consistently creating every single day, but instead you batch created them. So I've come to the conclusion that they all tie to just consistency. The reason that iPhone content performs well, in my opinion, is because you can be more consistent with it and you can relate more to the viewer. Whenever it's filmed on something that they have, it feels more intimate. They feel like they are there with you. And it comes back to how cameras and phones aren't necessarily the same because the phone doesn't have the depth. When the phone doesn't have the depth, then it works to your advantage. When I'm separated from the background a lot, it seems too well done. I seem separated from you. Because if you don't know, whenever you zoom in more on a lens, it blurs you out more. So it compresses you. You don't always want that. That's not always something that's good. It looks nice, and a lot of clients like that, but it depends what you're going for. And for Reels and TikTok, you don't want all of that depth. I've seen it firsthand. So if I had the tip, I would just say be consistent. Post every day, post every other day. Get on a schedule that works for you. Batch create content. Don't think you have to create every single day because that's a one-stop shop to burnout. Nobody wants to burn out. So whenever you're creating consistent content, you will become a part of somebody's everyday schedule. And next thing you know, you'll be 100 videos deep. People will love what you're doing. And whenever you stop, they'll actually give you crap. That's a cool spot that I'm at where I really think if I stopped posting for a week or two, I would get some DMs like, where'd those go? Not that all of these people comment or like every one of them. Whenever I see my friends in person, they say that they've been enjoying the Reels. They're not really interacting on social media with it, but they do see it. People are watching. Whether you know it or not, whether people say it or not to you, people are watching. And that's a good thing. And you can use that to your advantage. Use that for your motivation. Whenever you see people, they will say something, and then you know that if you stopped, then maybe you're throwing off their everyday life. Maybe that is something that they look forward to every single day. So be consistent, do your thing, do what makes you happy and create content even if all you have is your phone, because people will watch if it's good content, if it is sending a good message or just brightening their day. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks a ton for watching, and peace out.